Good evening. If you're watching this after the stream, welcome. Doing something a little different tonight. So once a few people get in here, we'll get down to it. But if you're watching the stream after the fact, make sure to keep an eye on the chats, the chat replay, as we do interact with the chat. But tonight, this is a book channel. So we're going to read some of the book. This is the Athonite Gerontikon. This was gifted to me by a fan of the show, Steve. Hey, Raul. I did a review, a rather brief one, on this book some time back. And I also have the 4-part Evergentinos that to this day I'm still working my way through. But we'll be revisiting that sometime in the future. But in light of some research I've been doing lately, I figured it was good to get back to some Athonite work and maybe take a look at some of the wisdom they have to impart to us. So I have selected an earlier section in the book on keeping vigil to share with everyone this evening and maybe talk about a bit. Oh, thanks, Raul. You're so generous. You really are. Thank you. So anyway, so let's get into this. We'll discuss it a little bit as we go along. God willing, some people will pop in. I know we're starting a little earlier than we usually do for Sundays. This is not necessarily Books and Brews. It is primarily because there's no brews. And maybe if I move the microphone a little, it'll actually focus on me. Autofocus. There we go. Not that you really need to see me. It's dry January, folks. So anyway, let us get into the book, shall we? It's a little closer. In Athonite Gerontikon, chapter 4, on vigil. When the holy Akakios, who lived in the remote skeet of Kafsokalivia, Greek words, was asked about sleep and vigil, he replied, "Half an hour of sleep is enough for the true monk." We are far from true monks, are we not? If I get one more Snapchat during this, I'm going to yeet my phone. He himself would either be standing or kneeling all night with unsurpassable courage and would chant or pray despite the fact that he suffered from a terrible hernia and was in extremely old age. He would sleep for a short while at daybreak, leaning on his arm or anywhere else, so that he would not lose clarity of mind from extreme sleeplessness. He considered sleep to be a treacherous, undermining enemy of the soul. He would say that nothing increases the passions, neither mattress nor clothing, neither riches nor food, more than excessive sleep. And nothing subdues them as much as keeping vigil. He had a self-designed bed made from thick, knotted tree branches nailed sparsely together without a mattress, so that it was impossible for his body to rest as well as it would have liked, and so that he could be awakened easily. According to his biography, he slept for 1 to 4 hours a day. Wow. I don't know about anyone else here, but 4 hours of sleep, I can totally get on board with that, primarily because I'm not active enough to warrant needing more sleep. And I would imagine monks usually, unless they work with extreme physical labor, are the same. But I know personally, I can sleep on the floor no problem, but knotted branches, this guy. Let's see here. Hello, the ancient light. Greeting Vukun. Greeting Chat Noir. Yeah, 4 hours a night is pretty. When I was at the monastery, oh, bon année. When I was at the monastery, it was 4 to 6 hours a night, and I was a particularly lazy person, so uh, after matins, I would take a nap. I was terrible. And we continue on here. Even the blessed Saint Gregory Palamas fought persistently against the flesh and sleep. For 3 whole months in his hermitage above the holy monastery of the Great Lavra, he remained without sleep and in prayer. He did, however, interrupt this ascetic labor so that his mind might not be harmed from continuous sleeplessness. And here I think they bring up a very good point in that the delirium and delusion that comes from overexhaustion can definitely be a hindrance, especially to the soul. Yeah, right on, Raul. I mean, and 6 is normal for the everyday person. Hey, Joachim. And again, we're speaking about ascetic fathers. This always happens during my live streams. I'm not going to subject you to looking at me in a tank top the entire time, but I am going to switch into a lighter shirt as I am. I don't know why I heat up when I do these live streams, but I do. So excuse me a moment. The lessons we're supposed to take here, as far as I can reckon, from these fathers is that we have to struggle. Without struggle, there's nothing. The life of a Christian is a struggle, and if we're not trying, if we're not making that effort, struggle a little, as Abbot Seraphim might say. So let's see what else they have to say. Here we go. The Athonite Russian Saint Silouan the New, who was canonized in 1987, was born in 1866 and died in 1938. He was a monk of St. Pantalemon's Monastery, living a life of holiness, purity, universal love, ceaseless prayer, and deep humility. He reposed in peace, leaving behind the memory of a holy man. His biography was written by the ever-memorable Geronda Father Sophronios of the Holy Patriarchal and Stravopagic Monastery of St. John the Forerunner in England. St. Silouan, amongst all the other virtues, labored especially in vigil, knowing from experience how much it assists in the cleansing of mind, the uplifting of prayer, and in cultivating joyful mourning. He would not lie on a bed, either standing or sitting on a stool. He would spend almost the entire night in prayer. He would sleep sitting on a stool for only 15 to 20 minutes and then rise to pray again. He would rest again later so that his intermittent sleep would total to about 2 hours a day. Of course, I know very little about Saint Silouan the Athonite, but this also doesn't surprise me. In the modern parlance, we would know this as micro-napping. And also, one thing that sticks out to me is starting to stick out to me, and I think we might find this more as we go along, that the idea of vigil is not the vigil we know from the service books. The idea of vigil is just staying awake, staying attentive, and keeping your mind on God. It's not some sort of liturgical practice like the Roman Catholics would have, where it's just like, no, your vigil is and you got to roll a D20, and if you score a 17 or higher, you get an indulgence. No, the vigil for we Orthodox Christians is just that. It's in the root of the word, and vigilance and keeping watch. I've heard it said before that a woman said, Father, I could not keep a vigil. My new infant was crying, blah 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 blah, and the father says, "Well, woman, you've kept your vigil." So let's keep that in mind as we go along here. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Fasted in the monastery completely from food. I had more energy to pray at night. Absolutely, and it's echoed time and time again in the writings of the great monastic fathers that it's. I'll put it this way, because I kind of recoined the phrase because I felt like I was being clever, but you can't pray on a full stomach and you can't work on an empty stomach. Medical experts claim that human can teach himself to REM sleep, that you can be satisfied with 30 minutes of REM sleep. I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that, if I can train myself. Yeah, the struggle to stay awake is part of it. Absolutely. Unfortunately, Mike, and I would say today is a fantastic example. When I got home from the liturgy today, at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I laid down with the intent of maybe taking an hour nap, just relaxing and listening to a podcast. And I woke up and went back to sleep and woke up and went back to sleep and struggled in vain to be awake. My body hurt for some reason. I was achy, everything just. And so I wound up not getting up completely until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So for 4 hours, I tossed and turned in pain, and I'm still in a lot of pain right now, actually. A wasted day, the anti-vigil, if you will. Let's continue in with the book here. We asked Elder Simeon, a blind. Oh, I'm going to try to pronounce this word here, and I failed the first time. Kafsokalivitin. Kafsokalivitin. Kafsokalivitan. The Kafsokalivitan monk. We asked Elder Simeon, how is the soul cleansed from impure thoughts, desires, and the various passions? He replied, by not knowing what sleep is. Exhaustion will do that to you. In the Ivoritan Skeet, there lived a most pious priest monk, Gerasimos the hymnographer. When he was to serve the divine liturgy the following day, he would keep vigil, reading and praying. God took him at a young age. Quote, being perfected in a short time, he fulfilled long years with his soul, for his soul was pleasing to the Lord. Wisdom 4:13 through 14. Yeah. With excessive sleep, our mind becomes sluggish, a struggling hermit would say. Yes, I believe that wholeheartedly. Wow. Okay, now here, I think this is pronounced Haji Georges or Haji Georges. Hadjigeorgis. Hagiores. Rested at night standing at his stasidi. Stasidi is that, like, have you ever seen pictures of a monastery and they have those really high seats with the high shoulders? That's what is sleep exactly, Raoul. That's where he would sleep. His cell was almost unknown to him. During the day, he devoted his time to his suffering brothers, while his nights were given over to prayer. That reminds me of another point of delusion, really, that I think some of us fall into sometimes, is the idea of, like, if we incorporate bits of furniture or whatever from the lifestyle of a monk into our bedroom or whatever, that somehow we'll be able to imitate them more in practice. And I myself, I tend to daydream about these things myself. In fact, a great example is, and I've mentioned him before recently, Father Lazarus L. Antony from St. Anthony's Monastery in Egypt, over near the Red Sea. And he lives up in a cave. And he's talking about how, the cave he prays in is just this tiny little hovel, and it's this, natural cave formation. And I'm like, oh man, that would be so cool. And, start imagining like, oh, I could section off a cordon off a section of my room and kind of put blankets up and whatever and do this. And then I realized that that's stupid. That's ridiculous. The other part to that was I have a part of my room that's already like that, and I don't use it like that. My bed in the alcove, which you've probably seen before. So, yeah, be careful of delusions. One day, a young monk asked Father N, who was 86 years old, Elder, how many hours should a monk sleep? Listen, my brother, St. Theodore the Studite and St. Simeon the New Theologian say that 4 to 5 hours a day are enough. But Abba Arsenios in the Geronticon states that 1 hour of sleep is sufficient for the struggling monk. St. Akakios of, there's that word again, Kapsokalivia. Hey, I think I'm getting it. Says half an hour. To me, it seems somewhat difficult, but since the saints say it, we must try. See, it's not uniform. And you, how long do you sleep? Oh, my brother, what is the need for such a question? For my own benefit, for the love of Christ, tell me. I will tell you. 1 hour and 24 is enough. Is that enough for you? Oh, it is more than enough. Do you sleep 1 hour through or with interruptions? With interruptions, of course. A quarter of an hour here, a quarter of an hour there. And how is your time spent? Unfortunately, now that I have a double hernia, I can no longer remain standing up. That is why I sit to read the Psalter or the Gospels and then say the Jesus Prayer for a while. The entire Psalter and the entire New Testament? Naturally, the entire ones. Every day? Every day. The only thing is, I can no longer read standing. What can I do? This is what happens with old age. Imagine loving God so much. Chime in the chat on this one. Anyone else here feel absolutely ashamed of themselves because they have a hard enough time sitting down to read a chapter of the Bible a day, and yet here are these great aesthetics that day in and day out can just bathe themselves in the words of our Lord and in the scriptures and in the lives of the saints. Sure, it's nice to imagine that we do it, but who among us actually does it? Yeah, I'm right there with you, Sarah. Let's continue on. Excuse me. Oh, well, that's good to hear. I struggle to read every day, and I don't always do it every day. I have a hard enough time keeping my prayers, and I don't understand. And you listen and nap. Hey, that works. I do that too, but I feel like I don't participate enough. So, there was a time where, I had no problem whatsoever getting up in the morning and reading the full monastic order of morning prayers, and in the evening prayers along with a canon. It just came naturally. And now I struggle just to keep my regular prayer rule. Hans chiming in there. 2020 could only have been possible because too few people were awake. Words to ponder, brothers and sisters. Hans Gruber doesn't speak much, but when he does, spot on. Welcome to the show, friend. Let's see. When he first came to Athos, oh, this is a good one. When he first came to Athos and not having found a spiritual father, Elder Joseph the cave dweller lived for a short time near the cave of St. Athanasius the Athonite, not far from the great Lavra. There he lived a very strict life and thus succeeded in standing up for 8 days without eating anything and without sleeping. He would say, "No ascetics bring forth so many blessings as does the deprivation of sleep. Indeed, sleep weakens the body." That's true. He would say, "The most frightful case of the passion of sleep is when grace leaves us and we are overcome by despondency and darkness, without allowing even the slightest form of consolation. One day I was greatly tested in this respect. I was struggling to continue, and almost all my strength was gone. I interrupted my struggle to pray with sorrowful tears to the Lord, 'Lord, they are coming to weaken my good intentions.' Immediately, I immediately heard a sweet voice within me. 'Won't you endure all these sufferings for the sake of my love?' My exhaustion, like a cloud that had covered the sun, disappeared that same moment, and with tears in my eyes, I jumped for joy like a child. 'Yes, Lord, for you. Help me in my weakness.'" Who among us loves God this much? Now, mind you, these are monks. Okay, these aren't people that have a 9 to 5 job or a family. You know, they've dedicated their lives to this, to prayer and fasting. We as lay people, we try to incorporate aspects of this kind of discipline into our lives, but to be so distracted just by trying to survive. Oh, they put a picture of some Stasidia. It's black and white, but it's a decent picture. And Stephen is also responsible for the camera. So the book, the camera. An elder said, "Sleep should become a servant, not a master." Bam. Hagioritic conclusion, quote, "Spiritual life cannot possibly exist without vigil." Elder Artemios of Gregorio, according to his contemporaries, never sat down in his stasidi during the services or the all-night vigils until his death, an upright and steadfast pillar of both the church and prayer. And there it was. That was chapter 4 on vigil. Okay, chapter 5. Before we go on to chapter 5, because you're absolutely gonna love it, because it really plays into a lot of what we've been discussing in social media lately. I'm gonna set this down for a second. What's up, David? Reading the Bible every day is wonderful. I highly suggest it. Absolutely. And, I tell everyone too, I'm like, read a chapter a day. That's what I was told to do. Read a chapter a day. I myself have a hard time picking it up. I've got 2 copies of the Bible right here on my desk. You'd think it would be a little easier to pick it up. Forgive me. I just need to. It's actually a. Okay, so that's so. So, what are your experiences with vigil? I know there are times when I try to stay up all night, or just try not to distract myself with the computer or the cell phone, and just at the very least be with the icons, have a lamp burning. But I feel like it's kind of a cop out. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I know no one's really paying attention tonight because there's nothing exciting happening. We're actually talking about books and all that. Hey, Spooks. Yeah, you want a spooky cat break? What you doing, honey? Come here. Spooky cat, come here. Everyone wants to say hi. Yeah, come here, say hi. There we go. There's your spooky cat. Whee! Okay, there you go. Oh, she wants to play with her toy. Been playing with Spooky Cat a lot more often lately. I loved the Royal Hours Vigil in church last week, but I can't stay up all night anymore. Too old. I feel you on that one, David. Right there with you, Sarah. Yeah. What do I do to avoid getting distracted? That's a great question. Because distraction is my number one enemy. No matter what I'm doing, whether it's reading the prayers out of the prayer book, working my prayer rope, reading scriptures, constant floods of thoughts. I have a very, very short attention span. And so, example, last night, and I was reading Compline and the Canon in preparation for Holy Communion, which I don't do nearly enough. And because it had been so long, and because of conversations I had earlier in the day, I was like really feeling it. There was actually a glimmer of contrition in my heart last night. Thank God. But oh gosh, their freaking dog is pissing me off. Distractions. That's so annoying. They're out in the shed smoking pot, and they can't even bring the dog out with them. See, right there, distraction. Shut up! Yeah, I'll just start thinking like the stupidest thoughts. And I'll catch myself, and I have to consciously be like shake it off and try to continue. This especially happens when I'm praying the Jesus prayer. I'm going to kill this dog. See, this is what happens. I'm not as good as people think. I'm a little ball of rage, and I get annoyed at the easiest things. Anyway, that's how I deal with distraction. You're absolutely right, Raul. And I suck at it. But you want to know what the next chapter is? You're going to love this. I'll hold it up really close for you. Yeah, this is what we're reading on Heresy and Other Religions, Chapter 5. Shall we? Earplugs won't save me from the fact that this is one of the most annoying dogs I've ever met in my life. So codependent. Just like me. Representatives of the papal-minded, and of course they have to put a note in here, papal-minded is one who supports the Pope. Representatives of the papal-minded Byzantine Emperor Michael Palaiologos and Patriarch John Vekos came to the Holy Mountain to impose by force the false union of our Orthodox Church with the Pope. At these attempts, which were marked by savagery, violence, and criminality, stigmas of papistry and the papal-minded throughout the ages, the Hagurite monks, guardians, and soldiers of orthodoxy resisted bravely and with peaceful resoluteness. I'm reading from the Anathema Geronticon, which I did a review on about a year ago. I'll have to go back and get the link for it. At the Prototon, which is a name given to the central church in the capital of the Holy Mountain of Kyrios. At the Prototon, Vekos men hanged the overseer of the holy community, and on a piece of marble, which is preserved to this day, decapitated the remaining confessors and neo-martyrs, totaling 13, who were occupying various cells in Kyrios. They were slain for confessing their unshakable faith in tradition and in the Orthodox Church, and for not accepting the unrepentant Pope. These holy fathers of ours were the beautiful branches, the ripened grapes, the tireless defenders and protectors of orthodoxy and holy tradition. Ecumenism is heresy. Just saying. The holy martyrs of Vetapodi were the same in number as the 12 holy apostles, along with the abbot Ephemios. I'm getting better at this. Ephemios. They were martyred for our holy faith during the savage invasion of the papal-minded Emperor Michael Pelagius and Patriarch Vekos. The 12 were hung at Forkovunion, and Ephemios was plunged with chains into the Sea of Calamadiu. Dang. In addition to them, also worth mentioning, are the Everitian, those from Iveron, holy martyrs, who were thrown into the sea by the papal-minded officials of Emperor Michael and Patriarch John. The 26 holy martyrs of the holy monastery of Zographou complete the chorus of martyrs of our orthodoxy, having been burned as a pure offering by the papal-minded within the fort of the monastery. Anyone else know about this? Checking with the comments here. Fasting, sleep, yeah. I wish I get back to the yeah. Oh yeah, no, my nativity fast sucked. You know, I had a strong start because I had started my diet beforehand, and so that's how the demons get us, man. Mostly through laziness. The passions of the stomach are one of my greatest enemies. Not because I hunger, but because I have, I'll want the taste of something. And that drives me to gluttony. Our Holy Father Nikephoros, the former papist, having joined our Eastern Orthodox Church, came and lived in the desert of the Holy Mountain. He wrote the wise method of noetic prayer, which is included in the Philokalia. Gonna kill that dog. Hey, right on. From Holy Russia. Welcome to the stream. St. Gregory Palamas, champion defender of theologians, had taken part in 3 major synods, struggling against the papal-minded heretics Varlam, Akydinos, and Gregoras, who denied the divine and uncreated energies of God. Good to know. Monks are soldiers of Jesus Christ, heroic fighters of the Church. They always defend the truthfulness of the faith and fight until death against the falsehood of heresy and error. The Hagurite monks, having followed the centuries-old tradition, are able to present martyrs of the faith and orthodoxy. The calendar lists the following. Ready for this? January 4th, the 12 holy martyrs of Vatapeda. January 14th, the holy martyr Damien. March 22nd, Holy Martyr Ephemios of the Skeet of Iveron. March 22nd, Holy Martyr Luke of Stravronitkitia. April 10th, Holy Martyr Chrysanthos of Xenophontos. April 16th, Holy Martyr Christopher of Dionysu. April 19th, Holy Martyr Agathagelos of Esphigemi. Oh, man. Wow. Okay, we could go on and on and on and on and on. Didn't realize how many holy martyrs repose on the Holy Mountain. Hey, December 26th, the Holy Martyr Constantine, the Russian of the Great Lavra. Let's see if there's anyone else in here I remember. Anyway, born in Kalamata in the year 1686, the most ascetic holy Erotheos, the teacher, being both a philosopher according to Christian understanding and learned in secular philosophy, fought strongly for our Orthodox faith against the heretic Molinos. For further solitude, he undertook his spiritual labors on the desert island of Yora across from Mount Athos and died in 1745. His relics are sanctified and work all kinds of miracles. At one time, Father B went to a certain village for matters concerning his monastery. From the moment he arrived, the villagers approached him, asking him persistently to help them defend the truth before an evangelical preacher who was bothering them greatly, attacking the faith of the church in regards to the veneration of the saints and the Mother of God, using many quotations from the Bible. Simple and almost illiterate, the poor monk found himself at a complete loss. He thought for a while. Then, after having remembered what he had so often read in the lives of the saints, invited his opponent to meet with him. And now here we have a dialogue. Let us light a great fire in the village square, and in turn each one of us will go through it. God himself will show which of the two of us has the truth. Anyone remember this from the Old Testament? Very early the next morning, the villagers gathered wood and piled it up in a great heap in the village square. Father B arrived, but the Protestant preacher did not come. He had left, taking the first boat out. The whole village raised cries of joy for the grand victory of faith over the deceit of heretic teachings. When Father B returned to the monastery, they asked him, "So, were you prepared to go through the fire?" He replied with simplicity, "As for me, I have no doubt in the faith of the church," and said to myself, "Sinner and useless that you are in every way, here on earth you deserve nothing but to be in hell. You might as well burn here rather than in eternity. Let us then enter the fire." Thus did the simple monk, with his deep humility, defend the faith as had the first martyrs and spiritual fathers before him. Awesome. The Hagiorate Fathers often say, quote, "If we keep silent concerning matters of our faith, which is endangered from so many heresies, then why have we stayed on these cliffs for so many years? Dogmas, unlike merchandise, cannot be incorporated into the common market, EEC, European Economic Community." And guess what? The Orthodox Christian has no business in dealings with the United Nations because they're from Satan. Let's see here. Strange people in Russia. They're called Orthodox communists. Yeah, I've heard of them. They confuse Jesus Christ and Lenin with Stalin. This is madness. Yeah, apparently they're a product of the Living Church, which was the official state church of communist Russia under the Jewish yoke. Communist yoke. So yeah, be very careful. Communism is bad. Communism, as Owen Benjamin said, always ends in two things. Guess what they are? slavery and death. Whew. All right. Continuing on here. An elder gave the following reply to the query concerning miracles also occurring in other religions. And this is of extremely important note here. There is a difference. Even the Hodja, which is a religious leader of Islam, performs miracles with his various forms of witchcraft. He aims to see light. We, however, when the devil brings forth light, turn our backs to him. Then there are others who hold their nose, pull their ears, rub their eyes, and then hallucinate. We ask God to perform the miracle and do not work with the devil. On the contrary, we fight him day and night. The Orthodox Church follows the humility of our Lord Jesus Christ. Many heretics, seeing the authenticity of our faith, marvel, abandon the heresy they have been following, and become Orthodox, said a virtuous and gifted Hagirite who had lived in America for many years. They overlooked the head and they revere the cap. The wise Neptic Hesychas Kallinikos said when asked to give his opinion of the Russian heresy of the name worshippers. Now this is going back again to a small sect in during the communist era. So to our, obviously, Anyway, an elder said the following concerning love for the true faith. Anger is needed when we are going to defend our faith, but not ourselves. Let me read that for you again. Anger is needed when we are going to defend our faith, but not ourselves. We must be moved to anger when we see that our faith is being tried. If someone speaks ill against me, I ought to accept it. But for orthodoxy, anger is necessary. Based. Bread pilled. Oh, yeah, the flags. The Byzantine flag I bought because I thought it was cool. The Mexican flag, it was a gift from I guess you can call him a mesiophile. No, she's a friend of mine who's married to a Mexican and, has a lot of extended Mexican family. And the book, again, is an Athonite Geronticon. It came from Mount Athos. And you know what? Bear with me, folks. I'm going to go ahead and find the... I think it actually came from Amazon, to be honest with you. No. I remember this one came from Athos. I think it was brokered through Amazon. I could easily say, hey, go look up the old video and blah, 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 blah. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop over here real quick. Is that the mail again? Sunday. I'm going to find the old, the review and pull the link for that episode, for the book from that episode. I know it was quite some time ago, so sorry, bear with me, folks. Coming closer to Christ, Jesus Christ, the conqueror of death. Next page. Grail Psalms. That's a great rain. Here we go. Athonite Geronticon. Let's see here. Aha! Found the link. Okay. What? No. Sorry, my fingers are not cooperating with me. There we go. So, absolutely based, David. Here is the link for the book. Um, this is fantastic. I would like to thank every last one of you for being here tonight because I have such a hard time sitting down and reading alone that I forgot that I love reading aloud for other people and being able to discuss it with others. Thank you all so very much for allowing me to do this. Let's see here. I need to ask you for a long time, what do you think of the Roman Catholic Church as an Orthodox Christian, as non-Russian? Because Russian priests cult, they are sectarians, absolutely. The Roman Catholic Church is hardly a church anymore. This can only end in tears. No, the Roman Catholic Church is, yeah, actually, I need to, well, for Patreon exclusives, yeah, I need to, absolutely. You're right, David. You're absolutely right. But yeah, no, the Roman Catholic Church is just a joke. The pre-Vatican II church had beauty to it, and as a Western convert to Orthodoxy, I appreciate the heritage of the liturgy, but outside of that, I don't think they offer us anything at all. Become Orthodox. It's good for you. The reason I don't record more audio is because I struggle so much with exactly become Orthodox. Because I struggle so much with especially Greek names. Russian names I can kind of work around, but sometimes the Greek names are rough. Oh, by the way, Russia's Catacomb Saints, chapter 3 is now available on Patreon. So yeah, the Roman Catholic Church is a dead branch and has been slowly dying for the past 1,000 years. So yeah, they're just about done. They're just about done. Let's see. Good words here. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank God. How many times was my youthful heart refreshed by the crystal clear fountain of teaching which flowed from the most venerable and wise priest monk Athanasius of Iveron? This ever memorable one would often say, quote, "The Protestant North, through the professors of our 2 universities, cooled our warm sun-like affections towards our sweet mother Panagia, and thus distanced Panagia from our prayers as our direct intercessor and mediator towards her Son. Even some clergy, when speaking on prayer, are ignorant of the Theotokos and repeatedly make reference to St. Paul as first after the one." And the note here is first after the one. What he wanted to say was that after God, our first intercessor and helper in salvation is our Panagia, and then follow all other saints. So these freaking Protestants got into the universities there as professors and started twisting the faith. Whereas the hymnography of the Orthodox Church is weaved throughout with hymns dedicated to her. And I'm going to put a bookmark on this because I'm currently working on notes for that episode on Mariology. And that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. It is a terrible thing for such a rationalistic German Protestant spirit to have permeated in the Church of Greece. I was asked which is correct, to say Most Holy Theotokos, save us, or Most Holy Theotokos, intercede for us. Good question. As said by certain modernized Protestant-minded, I termed them most disrespectful and enemies of Panagia and said to them, the set way was always save us. A Lutheran priest from Oslo came to me once who studied and was a friend of Orthodoxy. We discussed many things. He asked me about the Theotokos. I said to him that we worship God, we honor the saints, and we venerate the Mother of God with emotions which are purely filial, for she is our sweetest mother by grace. Oh, how you all are harmed, I told him, in not honoring the Theotokos, who is after God, God second after the Trinity, she who administers God's gifts to all mankind. Three things, despite his omnipotence, God could not have created more perfectly: his incarnation, the Virgin, and the blessedness of the righteous in the age to come. Awesome. Christopher Anderson, what's up, dude? Tonight we're reading from an Athonite Erontikon. We are currently on chapter 5 on heresy and other religions. Boy, did you pop in at the right moment. Oh! Uh-oh, the Serbs got to you, huh? Oh, it's always something. I'm going to set the book down for a moment here because that was awesome. Primarily because I need to use the bathroom. But, whew, man, I'm so glad everyone's really enjoying the stream tonight. And I'll be right back. I'm going to mute the mic because you'll be able to hear me in there. So I'm going to mute the mic. I'll be right back. I'll do one of these so that people understand that this is what we're getting into tonight, and I'll be right back. And welcome back. Behold! All right, let's get this camera back where it belongs. Hey, there we go. Let's see. Rule's got to drop one. Grateful Dead. You're turning into a zealot. You say that like it's a bad thing. Hold on a second. Now I got to go back up and see what I missed. When talking to a Protestant who is unfamiliar with Orthodoxy, do you downplay the differences or emphasize them? I don't downplay anything. That's for certain. What I tried desperately to do what Father Thomas Hopko would say to do, and that is to speak the truth in love. No, you're not the heresy guy, Christopher. Not in the least. You and I tend to be on the same page about many things. I would say zealotry depends on the severity. Father Thomas Hopko, mm, I miss him so much. I dearly, dearly miss him. Thank God we have the recordings we do. Thinking of how prayer to saints is sometimes pitched as asking them to pass the salt so as to minimize the difference. Um, I don't always go for allegories. The way I explain it to a prod is, hey, you ask your friends and family to pray for you, right? Well, if the saints are saints, why not ask them to pray for us as well? Our God is the God of the living. So, yeah, honestly, I know a lot of people probably feel this way too. I always count Father Thomas Hopko as a co-catechist of mine because when I was coming into the church, my priest, Father Peter, said very early on, he's like, listen, there's this priest, Father Thomas Hopko, and you should listen to him. He has a lot of good to say. And so, yeah, I dove directly into that, and I was blessed to have some correspondence with him a few years before his repose. So that was pretty cool. But at any rate, shall we continue? You want to get more of this? I forgot what an amazing book this is. Okay. Oh, here we are. We're at chapter 6 on voluntary poverty and being possessionless. Here we go. Hiding under the tattered, threadbare zostika, that's a Catholic monastic garment, of the ascetics, under the destitute and ragged appearance is a wealth of virtues, while contempt for material things and victory of the spirit over the materialistic mindedness of the world is revealed. Hiding within the voluntary privation and hardship of the ascetics is the treasure of humility, while the philosophy of life is in Christ is revealed. This is the kind of dress that true ascetics seek. They refuse to wear new clothes. They refuse to take money. They deny the pleasures of this life. Finally, they deny their very self, following the eternal teaching of the Eternal One. If any man would come after me, let him deny himself. Luke 9:23. Ascetics do not pay attention to external appearances, to the outer shell, to the embellishment of clothes, shoes, face, hair, body. All their attention is concerned. All their attention and concern is focused on the essence of man in depth, on the inner world, on the adornment of the mind, of the heart, with uncreated beauty, with heavenly brightness and divine comeliness. The hermit Peter of Hosipetritan possessed this spiritual beauty. He, who was not only, quote, poor in spirit, but also in body, unquote. I was told of him by the revered elder Gerasimos, the hymnographer, the Danielites, the Thomasites, the ever memorable elder Paisios, elder Joachim, and others. Peter was a simple and unpretentious soul, tall in spirit and short in stature, for which reason he was called Petrakis, meaning little Peter. He would climb Athos to collect mountain tea, would make prayer ropes, and would sell them for his daily bread. At one time, he was offered extra money, but he would in no wise accept it. He had such courtesy and spiritual nobility, Such love and simplicity that he once walked for many hours to the Kalyava of a monk who had requested to be under his obedience. Quote, I came to tell you not to trouble yourself by coming to St. Peter's Cave where I live because I am going to die soon. Unquote. When that monk asked what he could offer him, he asked for some boiled water. He took a little bag out of his pocket, which had tea in it, placed a small twig in the water, added a little bit of sugar, as much as the tip of a teaspoon can hold, which he had in another bag. He drank it. He would go through a whole year with only 1 kilogram of sugar, and there was still some left the following year. At one time, when he had visited Elder Joachim in Carius, as it was getting dark, the elder said to him, You will stay here tonight. I will go to the monastery of Zeropotamo. He replied, I'll walk until it gets dark, then rest under a chestnut tree until morning when it dawns. And so he did, but that night it poured torrential rain. He became soaked, caught a bad cold, and returned to the Kalyava, bidding farewell to all his neighbors, and shortly afterwards he reposed in peace. I suck. There was an old confessor in Kanyas named Father Germanos, I guess we would say in English, Germanos, who lived in the Kavian. Pardon me. Kavian is a room with a kitchen intended for lay workers and pilgrims, where monks, in order to fight sleep during prayer, suspend themselves from ropes called kavia. Thus, we derive the term Kavian and Kaviotan monks. What saint was it? That would Saint John Chrysostom would do that, wouldn't he? He would suspend himself from ropes to keep vigil. There, Father Germanos would receive strangers and workmen from the world, and he would counsel them, hear their confessions, offer hospitality, cook for them, strengthen them in the faith and life in Christ. He possessed nothing to such an extent that he gave all his money to his guests, and by sunset didn't want even a single paras to be found in his room. 1 paras was 1/40th of the Turkish monetary unit of the time. An elder named Makarios had absolutely no possessions. He used a kosa, a tool, to cut hay and would sell it as feed for animals. He would not accept evlogis, that is, gifts. He would contend with little. His small dwelling and garden were always clean and tidy. He would say, Here on Mount Athos, you need to have 2 eyes to see with, but out in the world, you need to have 4. In Katonachia, there also lived Elder Nifon, lover of feast days, who had the good habit of visiting houses on their feast day to extend his blessing and good wishes. And that's just a nice thing. In a dry Kalev lived 2 ascetics, Orestes and his brother Constantine, who reposed at Krianira. Constantine was the embodiment of poverty, barefoot all year round. And for those of you that don't know, the Holy Mountain in the winter can be... In the hesychastic Kelion, it's a monastic house, church, the whole line. Giannacapula is the name of it, apparently. There lived the renowned ascetics Sophronios and Gabriel. In a cave which was dedicated to the Nativity of Christ, there lived a Romanian ascetic who led an angelic life. He did no craft. His entire life was spent saying the Jesus prayer. He lived on his Father's charity. In the cave of St. Peter the Athonite, there lived a hermit with indescribable deprivation. He went around barefoot almost the entire year. There, even the sight of a person is a hindrance. A carefree life, no axe, no pruning shears. He was a disciple of Father Daniel, the theoretic hesychast. If someone brought them any chickpeas, dried bread, a few fava beans, or a bit of fish, only then did they have something to sustain them. Talk about relying on the Lord's mercy. Before we continue on, let's check in with the chat and maybe discuss a little bit. Let's see. Popcorn. Joking, the devil turns away Christian virtues into parodies of themselves. Instead of voluntary poverty, we have forced poverty. Yeah. I'm into that. Also correct. St. John Chrysostom. Even if you can't read him, read about him. I heard it's really dangerous to walk around Mount Athos at night. You can fall right off a cliff. True. Very, very true. That's okay that it's all you. You know, it's amazing. On any given night, I can do a live stream, talk about nothing, be ridiculous, and have like a ton of people watching. The moment we get serious, there's a dozen of you. Glory to God. What's my social media thing? Sorry about that. I need to learn in silence more. Big enough because I've made YouTube videos for years and years. Yeah, that's the thing too. Cultivating silence. I love silence. Absolutely love silence. But you wouldn't know it from the amount of noise I make. The only time I really make noise is at work when I have to talk, and YouTube when I have to talk. And I don't have to do YouTube. I just really enjoy it because it's a way for me to connect with people about books and have conversations like this. But for the most part, and don't ever mistake me for anything but an idiot. But you know, this hot mess of a room. This is my cell, and I keep pretty silent in here. For the most part, I talk to the cat a lot, but I sequester myself because I know that when I'm out in public or when I'm out with people, that my mouth gets me in a lot of trouble, primarily because the filter is not there. So, and after years and years and years of being a loudmouth and trying to be the center of attention for acceptance, I learned that I didn't learn. I finally accepted that that I'd much rather just be a fly on the wall, and that the attention I wanted, I get from Christ. It's true. Another hit of the old vape, and we'll continue on with the book. There were also virtuous fathers from Caracia, such as Elder Cosmas the Garlic Man, named so probably because he sold garlic, who had hesychastic Kelion in the forest. Father Neophytos and Elder Nathaniel, the Romanians, and John, the Yoranda of Elder Daniel. Their life was consumed with ceaseless prayer and their spiritual obligations. Their relics were wax-like in color, a sign of virtue and sanctification. Their struggle was one of force and prayer. Hey, welcome back. Hey, Doug. Right on. For those of you just joining us, we are reading from the Athenate Gerontikon, the Athonite Geronticon, which was reviewed about a year ago. And there's a link up in the chat for the book. And once the live stream is over, I will also add it to the description of the video. Continuing on, we are in chapter 6 on voluntary poverty and on being possessionless. Saint Dionysius of Olympus, born at the end of the 15th century in Platina of Tricala, loving the hesychastic life, lived on Athos prior to the construction of the grand holy monastery of the Holy Trinity at Olympus. He lived in a small house at the Skete belonging to the holy monastery of Caracayou. Like an angel incarnate on earth, fasting, keeping vigil, and praying. He fed only on a few chestnuts found in the forest, and those only after the 9th hour of the day. That would be, 3 p.m.? He had acquired such a state of possessionlessness that he never put the key in his door to lock it. He owned nothing save the raso he wore, and that being threadbare. Going back to earlier when we talked about, not caring to get nice clothes. Threadbare and worthless. This was the way he lived for 3 years, only praying to God and not acquiring anything earthly until he was finally called by divine providence to move on from this life. From Psalm 24, verse 18, look upon my humility and struggle and forgive all my sins. The confessor Father James would say, there were also another monk named James, from the Kellion dedicated to the Nativity of Christ in Vigla, hardship and ascetics. He would carry sand on foot for 4 or 5 hours at a time from the seashore in order to help build his chapel. Heavy, literally and figuratively. How the hermit Dionysius, the fool for Christ, sustained himself, what he ate, or from where he found a little oil to burn in his candelia, or, vigil lamp. Nobody knew save God alone, and that was because he never accepted charity. Only shortly before the end of his life did he accept any. He came to the Holy Mountain in 1842 and reposed in 1880. 38 years. No, 42 years. Derp. No, 38. Got it backwards. 38 years. So much did the ascetic desire to be possessionless, poor, and free of material things that he was almost evicted by the holy monastery of the Great Lavra, for he by no means took care of his Kellion, which was in the Gracia, named in honor of the holy apostles. Vineyard, orchard, garden, everything was full of weeds. The man's efforts and diligence were taken up in tending to another kind of field, the one where watchfulness is cultivated. His name was James, and he was from Kimara, northern Epirus. He had served the nation during the War of 1912, and with immense effort had built a church and dedicated it in honor of the 3 hierarchs. For those of you who don't know, we're talking about Basil the Great, John Chrysostom, and Gregory the Theologian. He was very poor. His kelly consisted of one single cell. For a mattress, he used a bale of hay. He also kept another one for the odd visitor, and for a blanket, he used a cape. In the morning, he would stow his straw mattress in a corner. He usually ate greens and a little dried bread. Voluntarily being poor, possessionless, and barefoot, Elder Chrysostomos, the hermit, lived in the cave of St. Peter the Athonite, eating chestnuts, wild greens, and dried bread. I also met another who was indeed a Chrysostomos. And the footnote on that notes that anyone who is a Chrysostomos speaks wise, sweet, spiritually profitable words, of course, for his most sweet voice and Christ-like meekness. From a dry calive of the Skete of Kapsokalivia. Eventually, through reading this book out loud, I'm going to pronounce that word right. Eventually, right? Kapsokalivia. I met him one time while I was with my Yoronda, who was his contemporary. It was in this dry cave that he had learned the craft of wood carving, as he mentions in the book Memories from Panagia's Garden. Note to self, let's write that down, folks. Memories from Panagia's Garden. Memories from Panagia's Garden. My pronunciation is fake, sir. And what can one say about the ascetic elder George from the Lavriotan Kathisma, situated on the grounds of a large monastery? It is like a hermitage and is inhabited by only one monk. Of Saint Constantine, with a ragged Zostikon, barefoot, standing in prayer like a continuously burning candili, with a big stool for both sitting and sleeping. That was Elder George. Here on the opposing page is a picture of Elder Athanasius of Karaisia. And what a lovely, lovely man he is. There we go. Just want to make sure that was focused on there. I feel like, in kindergarten, they show you the picture, right? And then they continue on with the story. Let's see here. And here's a picture of Elder Evdokimos of Karaisia. Life goals, people. Life goals. Let's take a break for a second there so I can check in on the comments in the chat, and maybe we can discuss a little bit. Hope everyone's enjoying this. The people that are here, if you weren't enjoying it, I guess you wouldn't be here. God bless you too, my brother. Have a wonderful evening. Let's see here. Home library contains the complete works of St. Gregory the Theologian, Basil the Great, John Creek. Wow. All right. So, yeah, buddy. But, yeah, I guess we'll just take a breather here so I can wet the whistle, and then we'll continue on with the book. I can do this all night. This is fantastic. What's up, Chris? What's happening? What's going on? Western women. Yeah, right. Here, check this out. I'm going to post on Instagram real quick. This is going to be fantastic. Hold on. All right, you ready? You're all going to be a part of it. So we are doing a live stream now on YouTube, and I'm reading from an Athonite Gerontikon, and we're having a great time over here. So pop on over to YouTube, links in the description, and join in this joyous occasion. Bam, done. And once it's done posting, I will also share it as a post. I can't believe everyone isn't a monk, right? Yeah, and it's so interesting. Like, even though I tried it, and maybe it was just not the right monastery, maybe it just wasn't the right time in my life. But I still think that's probably what I'll wind up being eventually. My priest, Father Peter, he's been to Mount Athos several times, and he says there's this tiny little monastery at the very top of Mount Athos, and he was describing to me the way they do the services there, and how it's not the typical Athonite type of service where they do everything and the services are hours and hours and hours long. There's all these old monks there, so what they do is they do kind of a bare bones service where they just they do the prayers for the day, the Troparion, Kentucky, and everything, and everyone. Yeah, Father Peter. There's so many Peters out there. And then the monks in their kelia will perform the rest of the services for the day. But he said that it was it would have been easy for him to just abandon his life and live at that monastery. Of course, he's got a wife and children and a job, so he can't do that. But he wants me to go there because he says he thinks I'll never leave. Which who knows? But that's my ultimate goal. I've never really strove to travel anywhere outside of the U.S. And in fact, airplane flight frightens me horribly, which is why I've never really traveled. Oh, that and I'm poor. But before the pandemic, the plan was to travel to Mount Athos this spring. So obviously that's been no, not Peter Hears. But as soon as the opportunity comes, I will go to Mount Athos, and if I don't come back, forgive me. No, my father is Father Peter Robichaud, who is he's a good priest. He's a good man. He is a very holy man, and I won't blow up his spot, as they say, by speaking too much about him, but he's one of the good ones. So, yeah, and reading, and that's why it's important to read these books. I don't do these book reviews just so I can be like, hey, look at the books I got. I genuinely go out and read these books. I do this show to expose people to literature, and to nerd out about it, of course. But the man who sent me this book, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm reading this one live. The man who sent me this book, as well as the 4-volume Evergentinos, sent them to me to share on the show because he derived such joy and insight and wisdom and comfort from these books. And that's why he sent them to me to put on the show. And I did a horrible job with the reviews. He texted me not too long ago asking me if I was ever going to continue to do the books on the show. And I said, well, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And so tonight I decided to just start reading them for people. And the response we're getting here about how, how is not everyone a monk? It just goes to show the importance of reading material like this, that we can connect to the ascetics, to the saints, that, even though we can't maybe run away from the world we're living in, we can share in that experience and the graces that these people experienced, Why do I feel like crying all of a sudden? Excuse me. We're good. We're good. It's vitally important that we read these things. When we don't take advantage of the books that are at our disposal and the wisdom, hey Kyle, we do ourselves a horrible disservice. The 21st century is satanic at best. We know this. But there are things in this world, innovations in technology, that allow us to grow even closer to God and to each other. And the fact that living in the first world, we can just go online and order these things is it's important. I'm poor. I'm destitute. Okay? Everyone knows this. I talk about it all the time. And so people send me books. So if you have the means, get yourself these books. Read them. Savor them like a fine wine. And if you know poor people, give them books too. Let's move on. Continuing on with chapter 6 on voluntary poverty and being possessionless. Like two birds, peaceful and brotherly, were the two ascetics Anthony and Simeon, both originally from Athens. One took care of the house and the other took care of the garden, for which he had to bring water from a great distance. They lived very frugally. You would have never heard them speak evil of anyone. Their Calva was situated near the monastery of Pantokratoros, small and simple, like a bird's nest. First, Simeon died, and then, after a few years, around the age of 100, Anthony followed. He struggled to endure the loneliness after Simeon's repose. They brought him to be looked after in the holy monastery of there's one of those names with a whole bunch of O's and stuff. Kautlomosiu, maybe, but only for a short while, for he returned to his beloved Calave, dragging his feet, bent over almost to the ground, yet happy and rejoicing. Finally, he was delivered from his ascetic labors and voluntary poverty. No one had dug up his relics after the customary 3 years, so he appeared to many, pleading and urging them to do so. Yeah, Monastery of Greek. I'm not Greek. I have a hard time pronouncing those words. One Cenobitic monk went through 6 decades with the same Rosso that was given him on the day of his tonsure. 60 years in the same Rosso. Elder Kalinikos of the Cypriot, who lived with his brother Gregory in the holy skeet of St. Anne, proved to be an athlete of poverty, frugality, and deprivation. He continued his ascetic endeavors in the holy monastery of, and here we go with another one of those big long Greek words that I probably should know how to pronounce, Stavrovonion in Cyprus. Upon his repose, behold his inheritance, a rotten mattress infested with bedbugs, a wooden box, termite eaten full of old rags, good enough only for the rubbish heap, a pair of shoes mended many times over, and 2 to 3 forgotten paras in a trunk. With tears in his eyes, Kalinikos' other brother in the flesh, Abbot Barnabas, said to those gathered around, "Look, fathers, at Kalinikos' wealth, which he has acquired all these years as a monk and as a prostaminos, a monk who is associated with the monastery's administration, of the monastery. Indeed, a monk is the one who possesses nothing during this present life except Christ alone." Bishop Hierotheos of Miletopolis, who had come to stay at the skeet of St. Anne, was totally possessionless. In addition to the other virtues of abstinence, patience, and meekness, he was particularly known for his compassion shown to poor ascetics, among whom he distributed his salary. He fell asleep in the Lord at the age of 88. In the hermitage of Elder Neophytos, you would have found nothing save a sack full of dried bread. Only on Saturdays and Sundays would he go to the Danielites, who were and still are a comfort, a consolation in the desert, and would eat with them. He would then disappear for the rest of the week. It is said that when he reposed at the monastery Lavra, his countenance shone. The monk Elder A, they will sometimes during the book omit a name, whatever, for whatever reason, of the holy Kelian of St. Charalambos in Carius, lived voluntarily such a state of being possessionless that he wore no other rasa except the one which had belonged to his Yoronda. The Romanian elder Nectarios lived above St. Anne's Skeet, next to St. Pantalemon's in the Caliva of St. Artemios. He never left Mount Athos from the time he was tonsured, poor and possessionless to the utmost. He would cut sticks used for bean plants and would sell them to the fathers of various Calivis. He spent the last year of his life entirely given over to prayer, living in complete solitude. Elder Chrysanthos of St. Anne's Skeet recounted that after the repose of the virtuous monk Elder Cariton of St. Anne's, the only thing found in his cell was a clay urn for water and nothing else. More to come. Oh, good night, brother. See? There's a man. 3 hours of sleep. Doing it monastic style. Let's check in on the old comments there. Right, Kyle? Absolutely humbling. Smartphones kept ringing and interrupting the liturgy this morning. Who the hell leaves their cell phone on during the liturgy? I shake my finger in disapproval. My spiritual father says my ascetic effort is to try to lead a normal life. Honestly, Sarah, knowing you, yeah, okay. Do what your spiritual father says. Have I heard about the monk in Georgia who is... Oh, yeah, that new stylite. Yeah, I remember when the first reports of him started popping up around 6 years ago is when I first learned about him. And yeah, absolutely based. Yeah, I've seen the documentary. It's fantastic. And in fact, I would recommend that anyone here in the chat tonight check it out. DW chiming in here. This reminded me of the conversation I saw on Reddit once. There was a monk from Mount Athos who would post on Reddit. Somebody attacked him saying monasticism was just a permanent vacation. Oh, if they only knew. Anyone that ever says that monastics are lazy, on a permanent vacation, or avoiding work, I implore any one of those people to go to a monastery. They'll put you to work. The person told the monk it must be nice to not worry about anything and get away living off others' donations. What a dick. Forgive them their ignorance, though. Gotta educate them, Got to educate. Let's see here. Pop over here, and we're going to share his post. Oh, hold on a second. I'm sharing about this on Instagram so more people know about it. Okay, there we go. The world is upside down and backwards. Always has been, really, when you think about it. Just the ways it twists and turns and what's flips upside down. I mean, from the very beginning, Christians have struggled against the world. Nothing's changed, Ever heard of the World Mission Society Church of God? got accused by one of their missionaries just about an hour ago at the mall. Accosted by one of them. No, I've never heard of them, but there are so many micro churches out there these days. Oh, goodness. I'm going to make my own denomination. Yay. Yeah, I went through a period of that. I'm not going to lie. Part of my coming to orthodoxy. Oh, Jesus. Babylon religion. They wouldn't know their ass from their elbow. Pardon me. No, part of what led me to orthodoxy was the confusion over, who makes the rules, because in Protestantism it just seems so arbitrary. When I was taking those classes in preparation for the priesthood in the Episcopal Church, and I started to, learn about, the ecumenical councils and everything, that was one thing, obviously. The other thing was like, when the Protestant Reformation happened and then, churches breaking off and doing this, doing that. And I was like, well, then who the hell's following any rules anymore if we can just break off and do our own thing? Why is anyone subscribing to any given ideology? And of course, the answer to that is they're all heretics and I should become Orthodox, which I did. Excellent, DW. Good to hear. God the Mother. What the fuck is that? Yeah. Yeah, those Judaizing groups are weird too. But yeah, that's kind of that's a double-edged sword about, and we'll get back to the book in a minute here. I just want to say this. That's kind of the double-edged sword of evangelism in the U.S. With among the Orthodox. It seems to me that most converts to Orthodoxy are academic converts. And by that, I mean, we learn about Orthodoxy through research and not necessarily just encountering the grace and beauty of the church, instead encountering the theology of the church. I don't know what that says about us. I really don't. I will say, I wish there were more poor Orthodox. I know it's a terrible thing to say. I probably wouldn't feel so alone then. Hold on, I've got to approve some comments here. There you go. Yeah. Agreed, Christopher. Agreed. So let's get back to the book. We are still in chapter 6 on voluntary poverty and on being possessionless. So here we go. From the day of his tonsure until his death, Father Avachum never wore shoes except on the feast day of the monastery of the Great Lavra, which is St. Athanasius, the Athenianite, on July 5th. The ever memorable Father Auxentius of Gregorio was never seen wearing new clothes. He had mended undershirts and only one pair of shoes, which he wore within the monastery. At other times, he would go barefoot along all the roads, paths, rocks of Mount Athos. A wooden bench for a bed, a small table, some simple icons above his bed, a few utensils on his shelf. These things made up the interior decoration of his cell. Side note, if you have ever that short documentary on Elder Dobry Dobrev, they show the inside of his room, and yeah, pretty much that. Slept on a blanket on the floor. Some icons, a little hot pot. That was about it. Crippled Michael the Lavriotin had nothing in his cell, completely possessionless except for one raso. However, at his repose, he was honored by having a bishop present at his funeral service. His face shone and was wax-like in color, like amber. An elder with no possessions said, "There was a little aged monk who had simplified his life. He did not know any of the basic household items. In this way, a person is freed because all these things that we today call conveniences, be it a tiny sponge, are a hindrance. The only convenience for anyone is to simplify their life, to limit themselves to what is absolutely necessary. Only then are they freed." Yeah, Silent Angel. Fantastic documentary. Go check it out. Poor and humble, like a bird's nest, without a chapel, without any source of running water, unlike most other calives, was the calive of the ever memorable priest monk Methodios Hesychast of Kerasia. He lived a life free from cares of every kind, along with his blessed, obedient disciple, without any stress or care for worldly comforts and conveniences. Blessed were both of these monks, possessionless runners of the race to heaven, poor and beggars for the love of Christ. Father Methodios would send his disciple to Lavra to ask for some charity. They were pleased with whatever was given them. Even though he was a graduate in theology from the University of Athens, Father Methodios, for the salvation of his soul, abandoned all worldly glory and possessions. The usual food served in the holy caliva was the following. They would boil water, add a little flour and salt to make it into a gravy. When they had grapes, they would place them in an earthen cask, add water, and would make wine from them. Once another monk visited them, and they offered him some of this aesthetic drink. "What kind of juice is this, Father?" he asked curiously. "The fifth dilution," replied Father Methodios. That is, it was the fifth time that this drink had been diluted with water. In the last years of his life, Father Methodios moved to the cave of Saint Athanasius the Athonite. He would write hymns and was at the same time an excellent composer and chanter. In his book, Hierosimos Smirnakis, I hope I pronounced that right, writes concerning Father Methodios, "He lives with great strictness and studies constantly." In 1903, he served as the secretary of the Holy Community. He died in 1920. Right on. The handicraft of the poor ascetic Anatolios, who died in 1938, was collecting amaranthine wildflowers and mountain teas from Athos Peak. With these, he earned his living. They would ask him, "Isn't it dangerous up on the cliffs and ravines?" "Not at all. I fasten myself with ropes. I'm used to it. Before I came to Mount Athos, I used to be in the Navy," he replied. He used to live near the Kyriakon of Holy Cross Skeet in Kasakalivia. Hey, I pronounced it. I don't know if I pronounced it right, but I finally was able to read it. He once was one of the poorest, possessionless, and most pious monks. He would ask from the Skeet's miller the first lot of flour that would go through the mill, because when the millstones are grooved to grind wheat, no one takes the first lot as it contains sand from the millstones. Did not know that. On days of the week where there was no fasting, he would eat a little olive oil, which he would put in a small saucer. He would dip an onion into the oil and not the bread. The latter would have soaked up most of the oil. What ascetic philotimo. I love that word. Google it. Philotimo. Philotimo. It's one of the most beautiful words ever spoken by a human tongue. What ascetic philotimo. What toil, what a struggle. He ate cooked food only when he offered hospitality to another one of the fathers. He especially loved the icon of the crucifixion, which accepted his ceaseless and tearful prayers. Oftentimes, the icon itself would flow tears. He also revered the Panagia greatly. In the evening, when he slept, he would turn on one side until he fell asleep again. He would chant it is meat indeed, or as we know it in America, it is truly meat. Um, with all his might, he knew a little music and had a deep, thunderous voice. He chanted this hymn in tone too, as the archangel Gabriel had first chanted it. Many a time he would chant it up to 10 times in one night. His disciple was bothered by this at first, but then got used to it. Whenever he went to Carius to sell his tea, he would get to the Kelion Axion Estin, where the archangel had appeared and had chanted this hymn in honor of the Mother of God. After venerating the icon, he would chant devoutly the It is truly meat with deep compunction, during which Panagia's candili would sway. The fathers told him that the swaying occurred because of his thunderous voice. He then went to the narthex of the church and chanted again, and again the candili swayed. The other fathers chanted as well, but the candili remained motionless. These are wonders worth mentioning of that simple and childlike soul in which dwelt the grace of the Lord, who is great in his will and marvelous in his works. In our church, we have two different tones for the It is truly meat, neither one of which I'm a fan of. But I do absolutely love that hymn. I should learn myself the hymn in the second tone. Let's see. Christopher Anderson. Yeah, right? Child distracted by a toy. Right? Hey, he was goody good. So we are currently reading in Athonite Geronticon. We are in chapter 6 on voluntary poverty and being possessionless. We are on the last page and a quarter. And so let's go ahead and finish up this chapter and then maybe take a break. A hermit said, fasting, vigil, prayer, if one practices these virtues, then one achieves much. Lead a simple life. You can see that my kaliva is empty. Only necessary items should be kept within the household. Too many things are a hindrance to the spiritual life. I've got some cleaning to do. I want to pronounce this name correctly, so forgive me. Give me 2 seconds. Elder Theophylakos of Newskeet, the simple, the humble, the free from all wickedness, the full of patience during trials coming from both men and demons, reposed peacefully in the Lord in 1986. Near the end of his life, he lost his sight, but he never complained to God about his blindness. Characteristic of him was his apostolic lack of possessions and his carefree attitude in relation to material things needed for sustenance. He had no handiwork, nor did he care for money. He prayed unceasingly and thanked God in all things. He was under obedience to the ever-memorable Joachim Spetsritis, of whom he always spoke to me, the least of all, and then Elder Joseph, the cave dweller. Before he lost his sight, he was responsible for distributing the skeet's mail and for lighting the candelia of 4 prayer stands, which are small chapels that can be found on the side of the road, which he visited twice a day, regardless of weather conditions. Chapter 7 is on raising children, and we'll get into that later. Brothers and sisters, I need a moment. What beautiful work, what beautiful words, what beautiful souls, beautiful people. It's worth noting, all of these people that we're hearing about, all of these Geronas, There's they're all 20th century, 20th and 21st century. These are all recent people, recent monks. These aren't, these monks that reposed hundreds of years ago that are almost legendary now. It's recent. I could read this all night. I really could. I could read this to you all night. I don't know that I could sit down and read it myself. Too much of an exhibitionist, apparently. Hold on, I just found a random hymn in here. It is sweet, very sweet, for one to be meek. When someone torments me, why should I return his slander? Would it stop the anger if I began to abuse him? He loses his temper, and if I were to reply to him in return, I would straightway become brutal like him. At the moment of temptation, I will keep silent, and the madness with calmness I will allow to pass. Afterwards, calmly, sweetly, I will attack the injustice. In this way, I will be heard rather than getting into a quarrel. Interesting. Yeah, I gotta get up and stretch. Talk amongst yourselves. So how are we enjoying the book so far? Maybe this is what I should start doing instead of Books and Brews, just reading you guys books. Support us on Patreon. We also accept mail-in donations and PayPal. Oh, my aching bones. Oh, just a moment here. Whew. Trade this out for this. As some of you know, I tend to trade out prayer books every now and again. I switch it up. And my back is really, really messed up. Here, let's. Oh, yeah, here, I just got to stand up straight, so we'll talk up here. And reading about these marvelous Athonite fathers. So it's time for me to. I just swapped out my St. Tikhon's Monastery prayer book for my No Room Press prayer book, which is from New Skeet. That's we just heard about New Skeet in there, and so this is the prayer roll that you find at New Skeet. It's worth noting that they are coming out with a larger edition of this, which will have the Midnight Office in it. For those of you that like reading Psalm 118 every day. Oh, my back hurts so much. Oh. There's some ASMR on the back cracking. Whew. Anyway. All right. Back to work. Hello. Yeah. Excellent. Maybe I should readjust this here. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Looking fine. I think, hey, panel, how you doing? Oh, it's good to see you as well. Yeah, we're actually. How many chapters have we read so far, folks? 3, 4 chapters so far? Because I started on chapter. Yeah, the chapter on Vigil. Okay, so we started on chapter 4. We're about. Okay, so we read 2 chapters. We're going to start on chapter 7 on raising children, which I think we might actually skip over because unless anyone here has kids, I don't know if Kyle is still in the audience. I know Kyle has kids. But let me. Oh, the chapter on children's 3 pages long. So we'll read the chapter on children, and chapter 8 on despair is right after that. So yeah, so we'll read chapter 7. We'll read chapter 8. Yeah, the next few chapters are only a few pages long each, so we're just going to keep going until we can't go anymore, I think. Chapter 9 is on simplicity, and that one's a long one. Ooh, chapter 10 looks promising, on renunciation and voluntary exile. Yes. Oh, you know the book. Oh, the Old Believer's Prayer Book. Yeah. Oh, glory to God. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic prayer book. Not a big fan of the third edition for purely aesthetic reasons. Second edition was always my favorite, so I'm always on the lookout for another copy of that one because I gave mine away like an idiot. But yeah, the Old Believer Prayer Book is absolutely beautiful. All right, I'm going to take just another minute and we'll get right back into the book. I'm so glad that everyone is enjoying the readings tonight. I'm thoroughly enjoying reading to you and interacting with you. It's really beautiful, and I'm just I think the book's getting to me. I'm getting a little weepy here. Oh! A fan of the show sent me this. A guy named Sean sent me this this prayer rope. No, you have not interrupted me. I was in the middle of taking a break, so you're good. We're going to get back to the book in just a minute. I want to show you this prayer rope. This prayer rope apparently was made by a nun in Greece, 150 knots, and was anointed with myrrh from the Holy Sepulchre, which is brilliant. But it's like I want you to look at the size of these flipping knots. This thing is massive, absolutely massive, and it's beautiful. He said it was that the nun made it from 3 different types of wool to represent the Holy Trinity. So, and he asked me to pray for him, so I've got to pray for him. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Not every day you get a gift like that. All right, another hit from the vape, and we're going to get back to this book. You know what I'm going to have to do? I think this is probably going to be the first time I'm going to have to do this. Maybe what I'll do is after the live stream ends, when it does, I'm going to have to extract the audio and edit it down. Anyway, chapter 7 on raising children. An elder said, quote, "Praying is trusting in God. When you trust something completely to God, you do not need to remind him of it every day in your prayers, for God takes care of it himself. Only wait with patience for the fruit to ripen and to fall off the tree. That's why, parents, trust your children to God, for you have given them only your flesh, but God has created their souls, so he is obliged to take care of them." Another elder said, quote, "A child needs a lot of guidance and a lot of love. The first destructive thing is watching television. Man gives his flesh to his child. God creates its soul. When the child grows up, its parents are no longer answerable. God also gives to each person a guardian angel who helps them throughout their entire life. So shouldn't we trust ourselves to God? Help your children up to a certain point. After that, trust them to God. The guardian angel is close by. One might say, if a person yields to temptation, his guardian angel draws away. But the angel does not give up. He stands nearby. Even though it sees that we have strayed, still God, through our guardian angel, tries to bring us thoughts of repentance. We should not distance ourselves from God, for that is painful. If we stop to think that our guardian angel tries throughout our whole life to bring thoughts of repentance, perseveres, suffers, is saddened when we sin, and in the end goes up to God empty-handed, thinking about it alone is very painful. And even only for this reason, we should not distance ourselves from God. That is, we should not transgress his commandments. There are some angels who, with little effort, and others with no effort at all, present one's soul to God, while other angels, with great effort, with suffering and pain, come before God empty handed. It's very painful. Just think, we should have a little philotemo. There's that word again. Philotemo. One of the sweetest words, philotemo. Even only for this, we should struggle so as not to hurt our guardian angel. There are many people who have seen their guardian angel. If only one could see his guardian angel, he would not ask for anything else. When babies smile, it is because they see their angel. You should teach small children to pray, for God hears their prayers. For prayer to enter their hearts, it must be deep. It does not benefit unless it is from the depth of one's heart. In a kind of way, try to help children as much as you can, now that they are young, so that they too may grasp the deeper meaning of life in a kind way. An experienced ascetic gave the following spiritual advice to his visitors on raising children. I am still a little sad with my father because I did not go to confession until I was 18 years old. I am still sad about that. Has the child reached 6 to 7 years of age? Off we go. Let us take it to see that spiritual father. So as soon as you return to your homes from Mount Athos, watch over your children, counsel them, guard them, especially with prayer. Pray for your children as Job did for his children. Pray like this, my Panagia, protect and look over my children. Help me, my Panagia. And cross yourself. Say a hymn to Panagia for your children and watch over them. Make sure you know where they go at night and with whom they keep company, for bad company destroys good morals. I'm living proof of that. Your child might be good, but someone else might not be, and will therefore be a bad influence on them. And on the next page, the hope of the hopeless, from the holy monastery of Simonos Petra, our Panagia. Take a quick breather before we start chapter 8. Check in with y'all. Yeah, it is a bomb-ass rope. Oh, my guardian angel probably gave up on me years ago. I'm still learning how to pray. Still learning how to ask him to pray for me. A holy angel who stands before my wretched soul and passionate life. Pray to God for me. I want to be holy. I really do. I want to be sincere, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Let's do it. Chapter 8, on despair. A nun overcome by despair would say, I am afraid that I will not be saved. A wise elder replied to her, who then will be saved if monastics are not saved? Meaning that monastics have all the external means in their way of life for salvation. Why did God create paradise? We will be saved. We ought to be happy. We should sense that we are sinners, but we should also glorify God. Trusting in God is one continuous prayer. We should stop being evil-minded. Blasphemous thoughts are like aeroplanes. They fly past, disturb our tranquility, and then leave. I'll call myself a sinner whenever I wish, not when the devil wants me to. What does that sound like? He also said, all kinds of people feel spiritually calm near a person who is freed from stress. An ascetic said, struggling, philotimo, a feeling of wretchedness, hope, which is spiritual oxygen, consolation, and trust render a safe pathway. Not misery and compelling obedience and constrained prayer. Not tears and despair brought on by the devil. Yes, I will cry for my sins, hoping in God's love. But to cry because the devil wants, this I will not tolerate. Many times the devil crushes a person with despair and proves victorious. This is not the way. Live simply, just like a child in his father's care. Trust in God. Trust in God is one continuous prayer with positive outcomes. Despair comes from the devil. Do not say, "Whatever has befallen me now has befallen me," but give yourselves over to God with trust and hope totally in Him. An elder said, "I have not dealt with many things. I am familiar with few patristic teachings, and I try. Anyway, one thing that has become clear to me is that bitterness does not exist. Bitter situations become sweet when you face them spiritually. Many times we see that someone has sinned. They are, however, sad about it and have repented sincerely, go to confession, and receive divine consolation. If one does not feel this consolation, then one should understand that something has developed within him that he is bothered by it. He should tell this to his spiritual father. Then consolation will follow. A person shares in his fellow man's sorrow, prays for him, and God helps him. They are, however, sad about it and have repented sincerely, go to confession, and receive consolation. If one does not feel this consolation, then one should understand that something has developed within him and he is bothered by it. If one does not feel this consolation. I think we're going to put a bookmark on that one and come back to it. And by we, I'm going to say me, because I think I need to talk to my priest about that. All right. Chapter 9 on simplicity is not short. We're over 2 hours now, and it hasn't felt like any time's passed. See how sweet the words of elders can be? You see how time doesn't exist; it stands still when words of people who truly love Christ and live in holiness speak to us. The only sadness I have right now is that eventually I'm going to have to stop reading. You know what? Dry January is going to be a rough one, folks. Man, I should just get some grape juice. And eventually some dinner. It's almost 8 o'clock. Yeah. Sorry, I just need another minute. Forgive me. Maybe I am running out of steam. No, we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going until people stop watching. You know, going back to the earlier chapter on vigil. You know, this is one way of keeping vigil. You know, back hurts, a little sweaty, hungry. No, we'll keep reading. We're gonna keep going. Who knows? Maybe we'll even read Compline. Hey, sexual immorality is something we all struggle with, dude. And I am chief among sinners with that one. Take my word for it. I won't speak too much on it because I'll probably lose half my audience. But we all struggle. You know the old saying, you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. Look to our Lord, look to his mother, look to the saints, look to your guardian angel. We're going to keep fucking up, folks. We're going to keep screwing up, but we can't stop struggling. Chapter 9 on simplicity. There was an ascetic in Carulia, the holy mountain's most austere desert, who had a little kitten to comfort him and to protect him from snakes and mice. One day, a bird of prey, flying through that desert sky, spotted the kitten, dived down, and snatched it up in its claws. The ascetic, upset as he was, not being able to do anything else, and in a way somewhat complaining against the saint who protected the hermitage, went into the small chapel, up to the candeli which hung above the saint's icon. He blew out the flame and told the saint about the sad incident, whom he considered his protector and friend. "Why, my saint, didn't you protect my kitten?" he complained. That same moment, he heard the kitten mewing outside the door. It had been freed from the feathered assailant. Come on, kitten stories. An elder once told me a similar story about a monk who had gone to Carriers for some errand, leaving the door to his Kellyan open and under the protection of St. Nicholas, in whose name it was honored. Returning to his Kellyan, he saw that thieves had stripped it of everything. He went to the church and, in a frank yet kind manner, said reprovingly of St. Nicholas, "Why, my saint, didn't you protect the cell from the thieves? As of today, I will not light your candeli until you reveal the culprits." And so the candeli remained unlit. The imagination can run wild with that. It seems comedic because you know that this monk is speaking out of childlike simplicity. And so the candeli remained unlit. Within a few days, however, the thieves were found, this being fruit of the elder's faith and simplicity, as well as the protection of St. Nicholas. In fact, the thieves, with a broken and contrite heart, came and returned everything they had stolen from the Kellyan. In Great Lavra, there lived a most simple monk named Hermolaos. He had been assigned to herd the monastery's rams. He wore tattered clothes and carried a prayer rope in his hand. He was a man with a guileless, unpretentious soul in which divine grace dwelt. It is said that he once saw Arpanagia walking around in the Lavra. He did not realize who she was, but only said, "What are you, a woman, doing here in Lavra?" One of the workmen was abusive to Hermolos. He would insult him and put him out in the snow, but he, with unsurpassed meekness, endured that cruel workman. It was the hermit elder Damaskinos from St. Basil who told me many things about Hermolos. A simple, childlike elder once said to me, "Monks in the past were simple people, guileless, innocent, and with no evil. They were God's little lambs." An elder said, quote, Prayer does not tire one, but gives rest, the way a child feels in its mother's arms. What does it feel in its mother's arms? We cannot understand this. Only when one feels the presence of God and feels like a small child can one understand. If one were to hear these people praying, he would think they were like small children. Some of them are like the little child who runs to his father, pulling on his coat and saying, I don't know how, but you must do this for me. When God's love falls upon a person in abundance, it dissolves him. An elder said, being simple by nature helps one reach sanctity sooner. A simple but holy man, when he once had to take care of a poor sick person, went down to the seashore where there was a church dedicated to the Ascension of our Lord. Thinking that it was the name of a saint, he raised his arms and prayed, My Saint Ascension, give me a little faith for my sick brother. And what a miracle! There appeared a fish in his hands. He left to prepare it, thanking God, and Saint Ascension. A simple yet holy man who does not have discernment might mistake a misled person as holy. A clever, holy man, however, having discernment, is able to distinguish one from the other. Intelligence is a gift from God like bodily strength. That is why we should use these gifts as God wishes, that is, towards sanctification and salvation. Orthodox praxis. How's it going, buddy? When the hermit Father Philaretos from Carulia was taken to Thessaloniki to appear in court, he had no money to pay the fine which was unjustly imposed over a matter concerning an old book that had been stolen by a tourist. Either you pay, Father, or you go to jail, the judge said to him. I prefer to go to prison. I have no money. Besides, this way, I will remember the eternal prison, he replied. Finally, some of the faithful paid the fine. Returning to the holy mountain, he said to the fathers, I have been freed from the earthly prison. I wonder, will I be set free from the eternal one? When asked the question, how was it in Thessaloniki, Elder Philotheros? How were the people? For he had not been there for 50 years. He replied, What can I say, fathers? Everyone was rushing about for their salvation. I am the only negligent and lazy one. Simplicity. At one time, the most simple in soul and manner, Elder Artemios was in Piraeus harbor for some matter concerning the monastery. He was approached and invited by a common woman to her house. He, being guileless, accepted. Glory be to God, he said, that among the multitude of people a person was found to extend me hospitality. The woman showed him to a room, gave him some food, and left. He began to pray using his prayer rope. Shortly after, the woman knocked at the door, but Artemius was used to hearing through the prayers. So when you knock on the cell door of a monk, you say the prayers of our Holy Fathers, the Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us, and then the person inside answers Amen, and then you can come in. I can go into the history of that later. Along with the knock, as the fathers say on Athos. Say through the prayers, he cried out since she was knocking loudly and persistently. Say it, otherwise I am not going to open. Surely it must be a demonic spirit, since the one knocking does not say through the prayers, he muttered to himself. He continued praying. I love it. That's great. That's great. Oh, thanks, Jack. I lived for 2 years in the historical Kellyan of St. Nilos, the Ungent Gusher. I don't know what that means. The ever memorable elder Methodios, the brother of Father Photios from Simondo Petra, had also lived in this most hesychastic house. Outwardly, Elder Methodios appeared harsh and abrupt, so much so that he himself told me was nicknamed the Ruffian. He was not a fool for Christ intentionally. His entire behavior, however, like most of the monks, showed signs of foolishness. He was unpretentious, direct, self-blaming, humble in the extreme. He would say, "Since childhood, I was a whirlwind. In spite of this, I took care of my elderly Yorondas. Though stupid, though crazy, as they call me, I did not let my monastic family fall apart. I did not take care of my own mother and father, but I took care of my elders, Nelius, Methodius, Cariton, and Antonius. Won't Panagia save me as well? Whoever loves Panagia stays here." He had no education at all. Each afternoon during Vespers, when the Theotokarion was read, um, he always wanted to be the one to say, "Most Holy Theotokos, save us." He used to say it with such spontaneity, with compunction, and such a loud voice, as if he were shouting, which shook one's whole being. He often said, "By the smallest thing you can be damned. By the smallest thing you can be saved. With one stroke of a paddle you can be saved." He had been a fisherman from old. Fishing was his and his elders' handicraft. They would sell whatever they caught. Elder Methodios was known everywhere on land or sea, all over Athos, because he was also a passionate hunter. He was fierce in appearance, but compliant in disposition. He was not a fool, but a monk made of granite like the rocks hanging over the Calive. In his perseverance, in his solitude, with a kind-hearted, hospitable, childlike soul which sometimes gets stubborn and at other times smiles at you with a heart as soft as cotton. One day he said to me, "I'm going to clear the branches from the path so that people go through it won't get wet. Perhaps one of them will say, 'God forgive him.' Even if no one says it, there is a reward for having done it." The simple monk would often say the following prayer: "Lord, on that day take this poor one, place it among your servants. We do not expect to be put among bishops or priests, but to get a little spot in the corner." I had met two monks on whose faces was drawn the living picture of simplicity and forbearance. Blessed, unpretentious souls, where evil and hypocrisy do not exist. Lambs of Christ, hearing his meekness and his humility. According to all the fathers, Elder A from St. Anne Skeet and Elder P from New Skeet are living the joy of paradise, even from this life. For context, because he's referring to someone who, at the time, was still alive, the first Greek edition, 1991. In the recent past, in the Holy Mountains capital of Carius, had lived a very simple layman, an old man named Giannis. He was called the Ancient because he wore shoes as worn in the olden days, used to hold a shepherd's staff in his right hand. He once went to the Josephite fathers and said to Father B, "I would like you to make me a little icon of Panagia in a cloud dressed in white." That was the way, he would say, that Panagia had appeared to him. "We will make you one, old man Giannis, but it will cost you a lot," the monk said. "You ask for a lot, but I will give you a little bit," the old man replied. Another time he saw a wolf roaming around near the house of Father Agathangelios. Giannis crossed himself and said, "My Panagia, save me, and I will bring you a container of oil." And indeed, the next morning, he brought oil to the icon Axionistin. In a Kelion of Zeropatamo lived another man, simple in heart and poor in spirit being in quotes, named Old Man Antonios Sokas. A brother who was passing by one time met him and asked, "What are you doing, old man?" "What else can I do? I'm waiting for Easter." "Easter? It has passed. We are now in Pentecost." "Pentecost? When did it pass? I am still fasting. I haven't broken my fast yet." The elderly man said, wondering, and with an unusually simple manner. He would spend most of his time in Diaco Firfin. He did not like it when any of the visitors were smoking in the courtyard or Proteron. He would murmur, "Whoever smokes is ungrateful. The church is not in need of cigarettes. It needs incense, matches, and candles." And there it was, chapter 9. Take 5 here real quick. Chapter 10 is on renunciation and voluntary exile, so be prepared for that. Let's check in, see if anyone has anything to say. And I'm glad to see that there are people listening and not talking. That's really cool that you're enjoying this. Thank you. Thank God. I feel that most holy among us are those that are completely unaware they are anything of the such. Jack of all blades has hit the nail squarely on the head. Oh, whew. Oh, what a joy. What great joy. What great joy. Thanks, John. Appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. Whew. I think I need to stand up and stretch a little bit. Oof. So, yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Should I get into the business of doing audiobooks? I really do love reading out loud. When I was at the monastery, I would be in my cell, I'd be in the chair, and there was this one cat that would come around and would sit on my lap. And I would read aloud to the cat. The cats I have here at home will not sit on my lap, and so I don't read to them. Whew. Oh, yeah. Pop goes the back. Just not the spots I want to pop. Ooh, one of these days, I'm going to save up my pennies and see a chiropractor. Or maybe if I just didn't sit around so much. Let's see what's up in the chat here. Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm everyone was Orthodox until the split. Reclaim your true heritage and true tradition before the papists stole it from you. Something smells like poop. I love how, posture. Yeah, no, it's all about posture. I have terrible posture, but I also sit around too much. I don't exercise at all. Yeah, right. Oh, that's delicious. By the way, this is being added to the episode list for this month. I had to do some rearrangement because that episode on Mariology is taking entirely a lot longer than I thought it would to do. But yeah, light of the world, prayers to our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ. I'm slowly working my way through it because these are some of the heaviest prayers I've ever read. So be on the lookout for that. But got it right here with Mother of the Light. Little 1-2 punch. Bam, bam. Yeah, the Suma. Oh boy. Oh, what am I vaping? I switched to So Good, which is a raspberry watermelon sweet, in my Scar 18. Which needs its battery changed. Batteries. And then we'll get back to the book. Oh, crumb. I gotta take my meds. That only takes a moment. Do I need more water? Nope, got enough water here for my pills. Ugh, okay, and then we'll get back to the book. Orthodox Praxis. Which book? The one we're reading now, or The Light of the World? I have a copy of the Morning Offering actually on the shelf there. I used to read it every day, but I fell out of the practice. Oh, the red and yellow flag is one of the many Byzantine flags. This one came from Legacy Icons. Any book. My favorite saint. That's a hard one. That's a very difficult question. I love my patron saint, Saint Raphael. He's not glorified as such as a saint yet, but Dobry Dobrev, by far, is someone I look to constantly. Books in general. Oh gosh, that's a great question. Oh boy. Ooh. Okay, so here's what I look for in a good book. Content notwithstanding. The first thing I look at is the size of the book. I am a fan of smaller handheld volumes, which is why I love New Rome Press's books so much, because they're all just this perfect handheld size. The second thing I look for in the book is the cover material. Is it hardback? Is it soft cover? If it is hardback or soft cover, what's the quality of that cover? The third thing I look at, and probably the most important thing I look at, is the binding of the book. Is it sewn? Is it glued? Is it sewn and glued? Is it Smythe sewn? Smythe sewn being preferred, because with Smythe sewn, it will lay flat. Now, with most New Rome books, it's not Smythe sewn, but it is sewn and glued. So it's a very sturdy, it's easy to break in, and it won't fall apart on you. Also, Holy Transfiguration Monastery, their publications, also very, very, really well bound books. The sewing and the binding is fantastic, and also the size of the books. And then what I look at next is the quality of the paper stock that they use. Whether it's cheap trade paperback paper, or if it's maybe like printer paper quality. What's I need to get a micro caliper to measure the depth of the paper. But I look to see how sturdy the paper is, the color of the paper in contrast to the ink, and then I'm looking at the print quality of the text. Is it properly printed? Is it just laser jet? What are we dealing with? How's the color? Ideally, so in my ideal book, it is going to be a book roughly this size, like 3 by 5. No, not three. 4.5 by 6. Call it. Um, it's going to be sewn binding. It is going to have either a good hardback, or if it's a soft cover, at the very least, some heavier cardstock or even leather. Uh, it is going to have a medium weight paper that is slightly off white. The text, depending on the font, I usually find that an 11.5 point font is the easiest for me to read. 11.5 to 12.5. And if color is used in the text, contrasting red and blue, preferring blue because it's easier on the eyes. That being said, the New Rome Press books that I have, hands down, fantastic. The only issue I have with them is that I would prefer if the text was slightly larger. But luckily, the font that they use, the typeset that they use, is very, very readable. Whereas, and I hate to say this, but the typeset that's used in the Jordanville Pocket Psalter for Prayer and Pocket Prayer Book and Psalter, because of the size of the typeset, I find very difficult to read, because the lettering is a little blocky. And so, oh, hey, Anthony, thanks, buddy. And so I have a difficult time with that. It takes me a little longer to read. I will say that, that being said, when it comes to the content of a book, of course, I have I have this love affair with prayer books and liturgical texts. But when it comes to books outside of that, to be honest with you, it is books like this that I truly love, because it's not like reading a long theological discourse. It's not big brain stuff. These are little tidbits of beauty that we can relate to. And so it's these kind of books that I enjoy reading the most outside of prayer books and liturgical texts, scripture. So that's the long answer to your short question, Orthodox Praxis. I hope that that you enjoyed that. Wow. Okay. Quite a few comments in the chat here. Okay, we got a little papal back and forth there. I like that Bible you were looking at on Amazon the other day. Had your finding it? Yeah, the papal paper. Yeah, I'm still gonna get that Bible. It's beautiful. It's gonna be great for the collection. And I'm interested in the translation, as it comes highly recommended. So yeah, Dinosaur Head, what's up, my dude? How we doing? We're talking books or diamonds here. Books are diamonds, David. Books are diamonds. Yes, the Abbey Psalter is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Yeah. Okay, I'll let Chris and John have their little conversation there. I'm not getting involved in that one. Let's see here. Oh, you're welcome, Orthodox Praxis. Thanks for the question. It's not something I get to talk about too much, even though it's something that, it's the reason I started the channel, was to nerd out on stuff like that. So Raul asked which Bible. It is, because I've got it on my Amazon Bible list. Yes, of the several lists I have on Amazon, I have one specifically for Bible translations. Let me pull it up here quick, because I can't remember stuff because my brain no works so good. No, there we go. Yes, it is the Augustine Bible, English Standard Version, Catholic edition. It's paperback, but a Smythe sewn binding. So Here's from the description. The Augustine Bible features a beautiful foil-stamped slipcase and a durable matte paperback cover to ensure that you can use this and treasure this Bible for years to come. Printed in Italy, the Augustine Bible features the English Standard Version Catholic Edition translation, which scripture scholars consider to be the best available English translation of the Bible. I'd like to know who says that. The turning point in St. Augustine's life came when, okay, it's 6x9. Smythsone. It's got a nice slipcase, 1,232 pages, plus 8 full-page, full-color map inserts. Printed on 24-pound thin opaque. That's actually a really decent Bible paper. Okay, yeah. So, ooh, someone posted a video.
Softbound or it's not hardbound, but it's decently.
When the book reviewer watches book reviews, I'm just waiting for him to open it. Come on, show me the binding. I don't care. Yeah, we know it's not lit. You know what? I don't have time for that. Okay. The ESV is supposedly an updated English version of the RSV. Yes, so I've heard, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And the Catholic edition of any given Bible just means it has the deuterocanonical books reinserted that usually wouldn't be there in a Protestant Bible. Any good sources for Saint Isaac the Syrian? As a matter of fact, yes, there are. Oh, where's my Saint Isaac? Where's my Saint Isaac? I think I need to alphabetize my books by author. All right, if you're looking for Saint Isaac, no, really, I had. Oh, that's Saint Ephraim. Yeah, Saint Isaac's a tough one. I got a little book of prayers by Saint Isaac. There's a couple volumes in the patristic, popular patristics series from Saint Vladimir Seminary Press. And then what was I reading recently? Oh, yeah, that book. What book was it? The one, Christ the Conqueror of Hell. Christ the Conqueror of Hell by Bishop. Was it Tikhon Afeyev? Has quite a bit of the hymnography of Saint Isaac and Saint Romanos in it, which is fantastic. Yeah. Alphabetized by subject. Now, here's my crazy mind. I like to keep prayer books in one section, patristics in one section. I organize by. Yeah, so I do organize by subject. Yes. Okay, great. We're on the same page there. Thanks, Dave. Come on, guys, don't fight in the chat. Come on, we were having such a good time. I was also raised Catholic. So, there's a thing. But, we'll never win any converts by beating people over the head. Dinosaur Head popping in. Being from Portugal, Portuguese Americans are just as Portuguese as me. Hey, right on. I'm a mutt. I am mostly Celtic, but I got some other stuff in there too. Dinosaur Head, you were absolutely correct. Nationalism, empires, they all fall away. The kingdom of God is forever, my friends. Yes, loving theological debate. No, ecumenism is an absolute heresy. It's disgusting. Um, um, I would say we're enabling them. We can't make them. You can't make someone repent, but we can lovingly rebuke. Lovingly rebuke. Unknown Shade chimes in. Aesthetic Homilies of St. Isaac the Syrian looks great, but the prices are steep. Yeah, check this out. Let me grab my copy quick. There's a reason the prices are steep, especially on these volumes from HTM. First of all, that's a chonker right there. Second of all, this is really the only proper English translation of these works. I haven't even read this yet. But Holy Transfiguration Monastery is known for the quality of their books. The sewing and the binding is second to none. Most of their books are bound in Greece. And that paper quality alone. I don't know if the camera would pick up the paper quality, but oh no, this was printed in the United States, but the paper quality alone is so worth it. But here, let me bring the camera down. Let me give you a tour of this. So there we go. So this is what you're dealing with. And just to give you an idea, there's not a whole lot of pretty pictures in this one. So it's $70 for a reason. And that binding is just absolutely solid. So that's kind of what you're dealing with that. I was gifted this one. A lot of my more expensive titles were gifts. And eventually I'm going to have to do a review on this. Oh my goodness. That and the Ladder of Divine Ascent was also a gift. Saving that one for Lent. But yeah. Let's see here. We have similar thoughts on Irish Americans and Portuguese Americans. Yeah, man, we're all in it together. Not quite sure what the definition of ecumenism is. Does it mean? Definition of ecumenism. You might want to Google that one. I kind of don't want to get into that because I'm trying to keep things peaceful. Hey, Donegal, right on. Well, I guess we've kind of given up on reading the book, but I'm glad everyone's having a great conversation. No fighting, no fighting. No one is fighting. Everyone's having a great time. We're all having a fantastic time here. We're coming up on hour 3, actually. We might get into another chapter or two here. I wouldn't mind mediating a debate. That would be fun. What do you say, folks? You want to hear another chapter? Let's do another chapter. Chapter 10 on renunciation and voluntary exile. The founders of the holy monastery of Iveron, two descendants of royalty, were John and his son Ephthemios. They flourished in the years between 960 and 980 AD and were disciples of St. Athanasius the Athonite. St. Ephthemios, while still living in the world, had quarreled with and killed a Jew who had blasphemed the name of the Lord Jesus. Falling gravely ill, he was cured by the Mother of God, and coming to the Holy Mountain, became a disciple of that great founder of the Cenobitic monasticism on Athos, St. Athanasius. He was called the New Chrysostom by the Everetians because he had translated the entire Bible and other books from Greek into the Iberian language. Saint Savas the Serbian was a prince. His name before he was tonsured was Rastko, and his father was Stephanos, Nemanja, king of Serbia. Their whole family were very pious. Since childhood, this saint loved the angelic monastic life. When Hagioite fathers had come to his homeland, among whom was a very virtuous Russian elder, and he learned from them the godly life of the monks on Mount Athos, his heart was pierced with divine love. With tears of compunction, he asked the pious elder to take him along with him on their way back to the Holy Mountain. I see, Father, that God, knowing the depths of my heart and my intentions, sent you to me, a sinner, to guide me to the path, to the divine path. So I beg you, teach me how to avoid the vanity of the world, and tell me how to succeed in a holy life like the one you live. For soon my parents are planning to marry me off. That is why I have decided to depart from here as soon as possible. The elder accepted to become his guide, realizing the will of God and seeing Rastko's flaming heart, who had prepared his own escape. He told his parents that he wanted to go for recreational hunting to a nearby mountain for a short time. His father gave his blessing and permission to take along as many servants as he wished. At night, the blessed Rastko, later Saint Savas, when his servants went to sleep, met up with the elder and secretly left for the holy mountain. In the Russian monastery of St. Panteleimon, he trained in all monastic labors like a good soldier and athlete. His parents, however, were inconsolable. His father sent officials everywhere in search of him, for he was not only his most handsome and prudent son, but was also his heir to the throne. Finally, 3 Serbian noblemen heard that Rastko was at the Russian monastery and went there to make him return to Serbia. Novice Rastko, however, pleaded with his Gironda to tonsure him immediately, and that night hid himself in the fort of the monastery. He then wrote a letter to his parents, making reference to the last judgment and eternal hell. They were so moved and felt such contrition by the letters that they both decided to become monastics themselves. His mother, upon entering a woman's monastery, received the angelic schema, and after struggling in a God-pleasing way, reposed in the Lord. His father, giving up his kingdom and passing the throne to his other son, Stephanos, came to the holy mountain where he met up with his son Savas. The joy and contrition they felt was indescribable. The former king also asked to be tonsured a monk and was given the name Simeon. Thus, the natural father Simeon became the spiritual son of his natural son and spiritual father Savas. They were both monks at the holy monastery of Vatopedi, and both father and son became saints. They had built the renowned Serbian monastery of Chelandari on land granted to them in 1198 by the holy monastery of Vatopodi under the golden seal of Emperor Alexios III. Oh boy. I gotta approve a bunch of comments here. Hold on. Saint Damien was indeed worthy of admiration. He was a friend of Saint Cosmos of Zographou, and led a pure life in the holy monastery of Esphigmenou. Mm. He had been given the order never to stay overnight anywhere else except in his old colony. Once he found himself at night near the area of Chilanjari Monastery in rain and fog. Not knowing where he was because of the darkness and heavy rain, he cried out to the Lord, Lord Jesus Christ, save me, for I'm perishing. And then an angel of the Lord appeared and snatched him up, and suddenly found himself safely in front of his own calavi. For 40 days after his repose, the father smelled a fragrance coming from his grave, which was a mile away from the monastery. Where are you from, elder? They would ask the confessor, Father Benjamin of, wow, that's a long word, Kautlum Mosian, who lived to be 95 and reposed in 1941. I am a refugee, he would reply, meaning that all mankind lives in exile and that his life is passing and temporary. About the year 1835, approximately 5 years after the Turkish occupation had ended, a group of Sardinians, the civil guards of Mount Athos, I learned something new today, went to a wooded area near the Great Lavra to hunt for wild goats. One morning, they suddenly saw a venerable elder naked standing outside a cave, and they said to him, Elder, bless! May the Lord bless you, he replied, and began asking them questions about the holy mountain, how it was, how the monks were, etc. They informed him that following the freedom from the Turkish yoke and the defeat of the Turks, there was peace everywhere. Who were these Turks? And what is this Greek revolution? Asked the hermit. Don't you know, elder, that we Orthodox Greeks shed our blood to be freed from the Turks? No, my children, I don't know anything. Here we are 7 altogether. We do not go anywhere. We do not hear of anything, replied the earthly angel and heavenly man. He gave them his blessing, and they hurried in amazement to tell the fathers of St. Anne Skeet all about their encounter. The fathers of the Skeet showed great interest in what they heard. Along with the civil guards, many of them climbed Athos in search of the cave and the extraordinary elder, but they found neither the cave nor the elder. In the Holy Trinity Kellyan in Carias lives Father Kyrillos, sweet, affable, courteous. He was very old, with a white beard and shining countenance. He reminded you of the great fathers of old. Throughout his whole life, he never left Mount Athos. Priest monk Joachim of the Calive, dedicated to the birth of the Theotokos of St. Anne Skeet, was most admirable for his voluntary exile and contempt for all worldly glory. He was one of my Ronda's spiritual brothers, and I was constantly told of this exceptional man and his exemplary obedience. He had done service at the Jerusalem Patriarchate and in the army, for which he had received many medals. He hung them all along with the Archimandrite's cross on the icon of St. Anne. Coming to Mount Athos from America, where he had been a candidate for high ecclesiastical office, he practiced exemplary obedience under the very strict Gironda. He voluntarily resigned from the priesthood so that he might live as a simple monk. His beard had grown so long that it reached the ground, like the ascetics of old. Afflicted with tuberculosis, he reposed in the Lord in 1957. The hesychast Gregory from the Calive of the Archangels at Small St. Anne's had also lived a life of complete exile. He was from Sparta and was given over to constant fasting and prayer. He used to say that he would be cast in hell with the devil because he thought that he did not honor enough of the Lord's sacrifice on the cross. He was loved by all. I can identify with that one for sure. An elder ascetic said, How can one tell that a monk has been crucified? Consider Father S., who has been on the holy mountain for 60 years and has not gone out into the world. He also said, Praise and flattery are harmful to a monk, like a person trying to catch their own shadow. That's what it's like when a monk seeks praise. When my Yoronda scolded me, it is because he does not love me, a disciple might say, if only he knew what he is in his Yoronda's heart. A Serbian monk did not leave his cell for 40 years. Okay. For 75 years, St. Leonidas of Dionysiu did not know where the gates of the monastery were, that is, up to the day of his repose. "100 years ago, there lived and reposed in peace at the skeet of St. Anne a Serbian prince of the family of Vragovic, named monk Theoklitos. His life was one of great ascesis, struggle, and voluntary exile, and for this reason was graced by the all-merciful God. We're almost halfway through. An elder said, the monk, as soon as he has renounced everything, hands his relatives over to God, and he forgets about them. God is then obliged to help them, and in this way the monk steps out of his small family and enters the great family of Adam. He does not remember his family members nor prays especially for them, as this hinders God's task of taking care of them, since he himself is concerned for their well-being. I see in everybody my parents, my brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews. I've even stopped keeping in contact with them. It is when I do not think of my relatives that the Lord will think of them. Ooh, here's another one of those weird names. Euthemios. Okay. Priest monk Euthemios of the Kelion of Stavrominou of the holy monastery of Katlomosiu was honorably remembered as of a discerning confessor and a learned writer of many patristic books. This ever memorable father would relate the following incident. After the liberation of Crete in 1912, the Turks were selling properties on the island which they had owned during the occupation. At that time, someone who had a brother on Mount Athos went to the skeet and persistently asked for some money so that he could also buy a property. His brother, the monk, did not want to give him any money, knowing only too well that the money from a monk does not bring blessings upon one's own relatives. A monk is dedicated to God alone. In any case, persuaded by other compatriots, he accepted to give all the money he had to his natural brother. On his way back to Crete, however, in Thessaloniki, he fell into grave danger. He was murdered, and all the money he had taken was stolen. Elder Bartholomew was born in 1860 on Mount Athos, where his mother, along with another woman and children, had taken refuge during the revolution of Chalkidiki. His mother dedicated him to Panagia. His successor was Hierodeacon Basil Davilas, who reposed in 1979, who demonstrated such renunciation and voluntary exile that he never left the holy mountain, and for 40 years did not leave his Kelion, not even to go to Caries. In the same way, the natural brothers Benedict, Agathon, Lingios, and Savas from the Kelion Dormition of the Theotokos, and their brother priest monk Gregory from the Kelion of St. Nicholas of Caries, never left the holy mountain from the day of their tonsure. In fact, priest monk Gregory, coming to Mount Athos when he was only 9 years old, had forgotten what a woman's face looks like, and only as if in a dream vaguely remembered his own mother. Father Neophytos of St. Anne's, a gray-haired elder, who once, for an argument matter, went out of Mount Athos for a short time, used to say to me, I pray that Panagia will never allow me to go out into the world again. A few years ago, Elder Basil reposed in the Lord at the age of 105. He had never left his dwelling to go to Caries, not even once. He was very happy. Quote, Even if I had 10 lives, I would dedicate them all to the angelic monastic life, he used to say. 80-year-old Father Nicanor of Kapsakovia, I'll get that word eventually, told me that in his Kalive lived a monk by the name of Theopitos, forgive me, who was noted for his admirable self-exile. He had come in 1924 from Asia Minor, where he made a promise to himself, saying, "If I survive, I will go to the Holy Mountain and will never return to the world." Indeed, his entire army division was killed during the war, he being the only one who was saved in a miraculous way. He came to the Skeet without giving any information about himself or his origins. Meanwhile, his sisters from Ceres made inquiries at the recruiting office. They did not know whether he was alive or dead. After 2 or 3 years, they made Koiva, you know what that is, and held memorial services for him. After 10 years, someone from Ceres came to visit Father Joachim and Carius. It was only then that elder Theoloptos relatives were informed that he was still alive. His brother came to meet him at the Skeet, and the elder said, "Why have you come, brother? I am a monk now." They begged him to come to Oranopolis for his sisters to see him for the first time, but he refused to comply. He suffered many illnesses with patience. He had a heart of gold and not a hint of avarice in anything. He reposed in 1977. Through the prayers of our holy fathers, O Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us and save us. Amen. We'll have to do this again sometime. I am positively knackered. That's fantastic. Isn't this great? Isn't it wonderful reading about these elders? What joy, what joy, what joy. And don't fall into despair that we don't live like these holy men. You know. If God wills it, we will. If God wills it, we can do it. Oh, take care, Sarah. So I think that's all my voice can handle for tonight. I'm a little out of practice. But hey, 3 hours is nothing to sneeze at. Oh, right on. Right on, Dinosaur Head. We have holy men praying for the world 24/7 on Holy Mount Athos. Thank God. Right? I can't wait to go to Athos. I really want to go to Mount Athos. I want to go so bad. Whew. Anyway, I think we can call it a night here, folks. Got work in the morning. I still haven't eaten dinner. So, with that, thank you all so much for joining me this evening for readings from an Athonite Gerontikon. I will be adding a link in the description of the video after I end the stream. Get a copy, read it. It's a fantastic book. And many, many, many thanks again to Steven Anderson for sending it, as well as many other books. And thank God for all of you and for him and for all of this. And on behalf of Spooky Cat and myself, don't forget to go to church, say your prayers, and remember God. I love you all very much. God bless you, and have a lovely rest of your evening.